Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the Audacity Factor podcast. My name is Kathryn Dahl. I'm your host, also founder and creator of the Audacity Project community. You can find that on Patreon. Please join me. There are several membership levels. Actually, there's a free membership level and I have content for you. There are also two paid membership levels, and you can go to my Patreon to see the benefits list for each of those. And there are posts up there now, so you can check it out. And I would love for you to join, even if it's just at the free level. It's a community that I'm wanting to create for you and for anyone who's looking to be more courageous, who's looking for safety and community, not built on fear, but one built on courage, commitment, and choices. It's empowerment. And I know that could be a catchphrase, catch term right now, but it's true. We all have an innate power in us. It's always there. And I know you've heard me say this before. You do not give it away to anyone else. It's just someone else is actually using the power they have, and it may be in a hurtful, maniacal, manipulative even way. It can be in all kinds of hurtful ways, or it could be in great ways. They're using their power. So you who are not using it, I would love to encourage you to empower yourself. Tap into the power that you innately have, that we all innately have, and it's not in different amounts. Our power's not in amounts. Someone doesn't have more power than you have. Love doesn't come in amounts. Love is just there. It's like the sun. The sun is always there. There may be clouds in front of it, there may be storms in front of it, but it's still always there, just as powerful. Love is like that. Expressions of love can be compassion, kindness, forgiveness is one of the ultimate expressions of love. And I know we can all wrestle with that. I'll forgive you, but I won't forget. Well, forgiveness means forgetting. So just throwing that out there. And I know that might be controversial, but hey, this is the Audacity Factor, where I bring you audacious content, where I bring you the tools that you need and the structure you need to be courageous, to make empowered choices, to breathe life into the life that to breathe into the life that you want, not into the one that you don't want. So anyway, today, here with so many changes going on, and that seems pervasive in the world as it is today. And it can be confusing. It can feel chaotic. It can feel too much, too big, too many things, confusing, complicated. Well, it doesn't have to be all that. And there's one specific thing that I know can be really tough to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it today because of an experience that I had a few days ago. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here. However, why is it that we have such a difficult time being wrong? Uh, how many of us don't want to know if we're wrong? Something we could have believed for 20, 30, 10 years or whatever. Why is it so difficult to discover that, you know what, my gosh, I've been wrong all this time? Why is that so hard? It's fear, always fear, insecurity. It can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm a bad person for being wrong. Well, we're all wrong throughout our lifetime. This is what our mistakes are made of. We just made a choice that seemed like the choice at the time, but we come to discover, okay, well, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. However, hopefully we learn something from it. Maybe not to do it again, but that again, I chose to stay in a really challenging relationship for 10 years, choosing the same thing over and over, even though I knew it was wrong. And instead of being able to, at that time anyway, and even afterward in the aftermath of it, Because, and I know you've heard me say this before, because we are left with the aftermath of that. I judged myself for staying for so long. I felt shame around it. In feeling isolated, a lot of that was self-isolation that I thought I was protecting myself. And I guess at the time, even it may look like I was protecting myself from having to admit that I was wrong each and every time that I chose to stay, knowing desperately that I did not want to be in that relationship any longer. I just wanted the pain to go away. But what is it about the fear of being wrong? And if you can be so, okay. There was a scenario where I just wanted to, out of curiosity, be able to express to someone that, okay, well, here's some information that will maybe help you to consider the fact that maybe what you're believing or saying isn't maybe actually correct with the facts. And in showing that to that person, before even reading it, the comment was, even if I read this, I'm not going to believe it. So, what is that block that we have in regard to finding out what the truth is? Wouldn't you really rather have the truth than have a belief that is based on opinion, maybe, or based not on any kind of facts or truth or evidence or anything? And that's so much what goes on nowadays. And I'm going to skirt the political field. However, it's really a matter of, I remember when the news used to be the news, and it wasn't based on opinion pieces, because the opinion pieces are just a lot of the times nowadays, and I'm not going to tag any one group or anything. It's really just a matter of we're absorbing opinion pieces as if they are fact and as if they are true, and they're not. And there's one thing I want to say here is that we all know when we hear the truth. Truth is never based in fear. Truth is never based in antagonism or aggression. All of that's fear-based. So wouldn't you really rather have the truth and be able to make actually choices and have beliefs that are based around what's actually true? I used to tell my this person that I was in this relationship with, I used to say, you know what, you're telling me absolutely nothing. So I can't even make any decisions because I have no information. I have no truth. There's nothing for me to base a choice or decision on. So all I could do was create some beliefs or assumptions in my head that were based on nothing, only on his actions or his passive aggressiveness, on his behavior, really, that always stemmed of narcissism, gaslighting, all those things. And, I think it's really up to us to want the truth. And if we're wrong, what's wrong with stating? Why is it seem so bad or weak, maybe even to admit that you're wrong? Why is that such an issue right now? And maybe it's always been. I don't know. I know, I remember growing up, we spoke openly, and I was very, very close with my two siblings, and we always spoke openly. It wasn't until later in adulthood that that then became an issue, because as we bring other people into our lives, that can affect then the dynamic. So then all of a sudden it became not acceptable to have a forthright conversation. And I'm definitely all about having the difficult, challenging conversations because they are always worth it in the end. If you are being open and honest and maybe even provocative, but not aggressive or um, kind of needing a particular answer or a particular scenario to happen for you. So defensiveness doesn't work there ever. When we talk about providing a safe environment for others, is that what you're actually able to do? So if you want to have an uncomfortable conversation, or if somebody's coming to you with an uncomfortable conversation, and you're believing that you're providing a safe space for that, are you waiting for them to, maybe they're going to tell you something that a mistake that they made or something, and are you waiting to pounce on them to accuse them then of something? Are you being defensive so that they now know that it's not safe to tell you the truth because you don't want it, because it might mean that you made a mistake in some way? We are all going to make mistakes. We're all going to be wrong. It is to our benefit and everyone else's benefit to accept being wrong and then be curious about, okay, well, what is actually the truth here? And it doesn't even matter maybe how you got to this place of this particular belief or this particular opinion or this particular way of thinking or this particular type of behavior. It doesn't even matter about that. It's not, okay, I was wrong about that. Let me find out the real true information. And I know that can seem so hard these days because I know we've all experienced it and all heard. You can make a case for anything today. Maybe not the world being flat anymore. But so many things. But I honestly believe that we all recognize truth when we actually hear it. It's us being in denial and maybe not wanting to be wrong that keeps us from being able to say, hey, you know what? I feel the truth in that, or to even say the truth and what's true and real for us. And understanding that the truth is not ever based in fear. The truth is what is based in reality. Now, I know that can seem like I don't know, maybe an out there concept or whatever, but it's what I believe. And I believed in acting with courage and in my desire to impact as many people as I can, to be able to act courageously. I'm not talking about aggressively. I'm not talking from a place of fear. I'm talking from a place of love, compassion, collaboration, community, real safety, because ultimately we are all safe. It's people that are acting from fear that are creating an environment that makes us not feel safe. And I have no idea if this is landing at all because I really feel like I'm kind of going in some kind of I don't want to say a whirlwind, but I'm just going where this is leading me. Because I think and I believe truth matters, integrity matters, community matters, joining together matters, basing our lives on what's right and good and true is what matters. If we really want to have a better world, It's got to start with us. It's got to start with us being able to not feel that we're weak for being wrong or making mistakes. It's got to be about us not feeling weak if we choose what we believe that stems from something that's true and real and good. What stems from fear is never those things. And why is it that it's a danger to be supportive of other people? No matter what their politics is, no matter what their race is, no matter what their um, maybe religious beliefs are, or any of the rest of it. How does that make a difference for you? And again, is it that, okay, well, you know what? I believe this thing, and I don't want to be shown in any kind of way that I may be mistaken. So it's really a desire for, I think, unity and the ability to collaborate, to be in community, and choosing at its very simplest, the light over the dark, love and compassion and forgiveness over fear and aggression and power. And power over is something that is still wildly on display now. And not just in our, um, let's say, governmental systems around the world. It can be still in our workplaces. That fear is what's driving people to worry about still having a job when they come in tomorrow. That drives their fear of making any little tiny mistake or something that can be perceived as a mistake. They fear for their job. Or they can take the opposite tack when it's fear driven. They can have their neck up in a ruff and accuse everybody else of targeting them, in spite of the fact that maybe they have made mistakes. It's really so easy to own our mistakes, to own being wrong, because we all are. I know I've made some horrific mistakes in my life, things that drove a lot of regret for me for a long time, things that I would love to change, but I can't. And that's the reality of it. You know, we can offer forgiveness, we can make amends, but we've got to understand that we actually made a mistake and what that mistake was, and maybe how that affected the other person, how it affected ourselves. We can be the most difficult, it seems, to offer forgiveness to. I spoke with a young man yesterday who we talked a little bit about. He needed some relationship advice, kind of some coaching, and hopefully it was helpful. I don't know. But he was having a difficult time forgiving himself for a mistake that he made in 2009 that ended a relationship. He has yet to forgive himself for that. So he continues to punish himself for that. It's okay and it's normal for all of us to make mistakes, for all of us to be wrong. But wouldn't you rather feed truth from a place of actually knowing what the facts are than feed opinions or beliefs that are based maybe not in facts or truth, but that are just opinions? And a lot of that can be driven by knee-jerk reactions. And all of that, knee-jerk reactions are all based in fear. Defensiveness is based in fear. You know, I had no idea that this was the conversation I was going to have today. But that instance that it struck me so profoundly the other day, and it surprised me for who it came from. That even if I'm not even going to believe this if I read it, even if it's true. Because why? Why didn't this person want it? Did they not want it to be true? Do they not want to be wrong? I don't know. But my goal was not to prove that they were wrong. It was only a curiosity. And okay, well, do you actually know that that's so what you're saying? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to look. I want to look. So I took it upon myself to look it up because I didn't know either. But it didn't smack of truth to me. It smacked of an opinion and something that was probably heard from somewhere else and maybe more than one somewhere else's. And that's okay. However, it's up to us to do our work and do our research. If we're going to go and say these things, perpetuate it, it's important for it to be true and not something you just heard somewhere. It's up to us to find out what's real and true. And if you have some other agenda where you don't care what the truth is, and you're willing to just spread fear and aggression and racism and everything else, that right there smacks of a lack of integrity across the board, really. And I have to believe ultimately in the goodness of humanity. Because we're all made up of the same thing. It's only our thinking that's gone awry. But we have everything that we need to make that different for us, for our kids, for our grandchildren, for whoever it is that's in our vicinity. And we have a responsibility for that. So you're either going to take responsibility for it or you're not. You're going to leave it up to others. Well, then if you're going to leave it up to others, you don't get to complain that things are wrong or things aren't to your liking. But it's important to come from a place of integrity, from a place of truth, from a place of wanting to know the facts and what's real. So I know this is a bit on the edge today, and I think for me, it's a little bit driven by the climate right now. But for me too, it's been a long-term frustration because this is where we've come to. When I know I know it can be better, all of it. But we each get to choose. And ultimately, I believe that. I believe that we all have choices. We all make our choices. And we do discover the consequences of those choices, good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. Okay, so this was episode 14 of the Audacity Factor podcast. A little heated there today, but I enjoyed it and I enjoy the discourse, and I would love to hear from you. I would love for you to please subscribe to my channel, and you can also find me on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts and Patreon. Please, please, please come check me out on Patreon. I would love to offer you more. I'm going to be offering some really specific content on there as well. You know, it's really up to us to discover as much about ourselves as we can. And I would love to be able to help you with that. And that's what my Patreon community is about. That's what I'm doing here on YouTube as well. If I inspire just one person to be aligned with their courage and empower themselves with choices so that they can change their lives and up level their commitment to taking complete responsibility for their lives and the way they are. I want you all to experience more joy. And it takes courage. for you to be able to do that. Sounds kind of backwards, but that's the only way it happens nowadays. All right, so I will see you all next week. Please tune in, check out the rest of my podcast, starting with number 1, the power of the two things. And I will see you all next week.